Today we're going to look into how we can create a program for the first project, for the array operations project. So in this project, we're trying to understand how fast things are and what sizes actually start to be meaningful for us. And so chapter 1 discussed read, search, insert, and delete, and I'm assuming at this point that you know what those functions are supposed to do. And so what I'm going to do is walk through how I might go about solving this problem, at least to begin with, in a different language. Most people are using Python and Java, so I'm going to do this in Perl, which is one of my favorite languages, although the way it handles functions and defining functions is not ideal, but it'll give you a sense of how I would go about solving a problem, because this particular assignment was quite open-ended. It tells you the specifics that must be addressed, but it leaves a lot open to interpretation, and a lot of the structure is left up to you, the developer or the programmer, to decide. And so I'll give you an example of how I would go about solving this problem. So I like to follow along, and I would do the smallest step first that drives my program towards the working solution. And then I test it. So I'm running the code all the time. That way I can isolate where the bugs are. So here it says, write a program that creates an array of 100 random integers and performs the following operations. Well, first, let me just create an array of 100 integers and see what happens. Because how am I going to know if these operations are working correctly unless I can predict what the output's supposed to be? So I'm not going to do random for now. So I'm going to create an array of known integers. So here this is Perl, how we do things in Perl. So I'm creating an array, and I'm going to say for I in the range 0 to, let's say we want to do 100. I'm going to do 10 right now. I'm going to create an array of size 10 because that's going to be easier for me to work with and understand and test. And right now I'm just going to initialize everything to be the index so that I understand exactly what's happening and I can predict what the output is supposed to be. Now I need to print this out. I'm going to print my array for testing. Okay, so for I in array, I'm going to print I, and then a space, and then at the very end, I'm just going to print a new line in case I want to print anything else later. Okay, I need a semicolon here. All right, so this was the smallest stub of a program that I can create to test out my basic ideas of creating an array. So let me first try to run this. Oh, and I've got a problem. Oh, there we go. Yep. I crossed my Python and my Perl. A couple syntax errors. Oh, I've got another one. Oh, no in. And this is why I always run my code. Oh, but nothing printed out. Oh, because I never called main. Also a common mistake. Okay, so I'm just going to call main down here. Voila. Okay, finally I have my array. Now imagine I had typed more than this simple program, and if I had encountered bugs, I wouldn't have known where they were. So now we've got a point that runs. We can start moving this and slowly evolving and iterating over it until we see a solution. Okay, so I'm going to leave the whole random part till later. So I'm going to make random later. A note to myself. And when I make notes to myself, I like to put a little to do in there. Okay, so we want to read the middle element, search for the number 10, and insert the number 230 and delete the second element. And I know that I'm supposed to make each of these operations into its own function. Okay, so let's just do the first one. Let me read the middle element. And I'm going to create a function. Now, I don't love how Perl functions work. I'm going to include an example function in Perl, Java, and Python so you can kind of see how these all relate. Okay, but let me go ahead and try. So I'm going to create a function called readArray, and it's going to take the array as a parameter. And the way parameter passing works in Perl is you don't get to name your parameters until after you get them. It's quite obnoxious. It's the only thing I don't like about Perl. There's lots of other things that I like about Perl, which is why I use it. And then the index I want to get, I'm trying to get the middle element. So I need to get the length, and the way I get the length in Perl is by a function called scalar. And I'm just going to find the midpoints. I haven't been really precise here. Some people asked, well, should we precisely find the exact middle element? Should we average to? I'm not interested in that for this assignment. It's enough that it's something towards the middle of the array. Because at this point, we're just looking for how long things take, and it's not going to be a significant difference whether you take element 49, element 50, element 51. So right now, that level of granularity isn't needed. So I want to return the value of the array at index. Okay. So that's my read function. And now I need to test it. So I'm going to test it with read middle element. And I'm going to call read array on my array. Okay, I'm going to test this out and see how it works. Oh, well, it didn't work. Let's see. What did I do? Aha. When I'm passing an array in Perl, I need to call it differently. Okay, now I messed this up a little bit because I have no new line, so it's hard for me to tell if I've developed it correctly. And you might have noticed that I'm not developing this inside an IDE. So with Perl, I usually just develop on the command line with an editor. I'm using Sublime, which is a platform-independent editor. Okay, so I'm reading the middle element, which is 5, right? And so because I have initialized all of my array elements to known values that I understand, I can say, yes, 5 is correct. And in fact, to push this test, what if I changed my size to be 100? What if I wanted it to be 100? Would I get the right thing? Yep, I'm still getting the right thing. Awesome. Okay, but I don't want to stay with 100 because this is a lot of output and I want to be more sure about what I'm doing. Okay, so now let's look through searching for the number 10, okay, which isn't going to exist. You know, it was really handy printing out 100 and printing out 10. And you know what? Searching for the number 10 is going to behave differently if I have an array of size 100 versus if I have an array of size 10. Because if I have an array of size 10, I'm not going to have the number 10. So maybe it makes sense to move ahead and start to use a loop to reduce my repetitive code. So let me put that piece in. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to create a list of sizes. And in Perl, I do that in this way. And for now, I'm just going to do 10 and 100 and say later make 1, 10, 10,000, and then something really, really big. But for now, I'm just going to do it this way. Okay. So I'm going to, and then I need to loop over that. So for size in sizes, and I'm going to indent all of this over. And then the only thing I have to do is that has to be, I have to make that size, okay. I think I need to do that a little bit smaller. Okay. Okay, so in create array, the last index is going to be size minus 1, because this range way of getting a range is inclusive in Perl, unlike Python. So I'm going to go from 0 to the last index. And let me just see what happens. So let's say print array. The initial array. Okay, and so I'm hoping that you're observing how I gradually change my program, right? One step at a time, and I test it, and I run it, and I make sure it works the way I expect before I go on. Okay, so I read the middle element, it's 5, and then I have initial array is 50. And you know, it might be nice if I printed something to kind of indicate there's a separation. Okay. There we go. Okay, and now that's a lot easier to read. Let's see what we can do next. Okay, so things that we're reading the middle element for an array of size 10 and an array of size 100. Let us look over and try to search for the number 10. Okay, so I'm going to create another function, search array, and this time I'm actually going to take 2 parameters. I like to parameterize my functions. So, you know, searching for the number 10 is great and all, but what if I wanted to change it and search for the number 13? I'm going to pass that as a parameter. I'm going to get my array the same way I did before. And again, this is something that I have to do in Perl that you don't really have to do in Java and Python. And then I'm going to get my search number. And then I want the size of my array. I need to keep track of that as well, which is going to be the length of my array minus 1. So to search for the array, I'm going to go through each element from 0 up to this is really the last index, is what size is standing in for here. And if I find that the array is equal to what I'm searching for, the array element is equal to what I'm searching for, then I'm going to return that index. Now, I haven't specified this in the directions. This is just what I like to do. The important thing is that you perform the search. In some sense, you could also just return at this stage and not return anything at all. We're not going to use that value, but there's certain habits I like to follow. And when I create a search array, I try and think about how I might use it later. Okay, so now I want to test that out. So I'm going to copy this line. And I'm going to replace this with search array. So search for 10. Now I'm actually going to, okay, and so I'm going to take 2 parameters, or the array and the number I'm searching for. And I'm actually going to print out what I'm returning here, because this is how I'm going to test to make sure it's working correctly. Whenever you write a function, you need to verify that it is doing what you expect. And so even though in this project, I'm actually not asking for you to keep the results of these functions. We are trying to output some times, but we need to know first that the functionality is correct, is in fact correct. So let me go ahead and try and run this. And what I expect to happen is that for the smaller array, I'll be getting back the index -1. And for the bigger array, I should be getting back index 10, right? Because we've initialized every element to its index. Aha, good. I see -1 for 10, and I see 10 for the second one. So that's working correctly. Let's go on to insert. Okay, sub insert array. And I'm going to take two things again. I'm going to take what I'm inserting. I'm going to copy some of what I'm going to copy my search array function, except that this isn't a search anymore. This is an insert. And I'm going to change what's happening here. Okay, so I'm inserting this value, and I'm inserting it into the first position of the array. But before I insert into the first position of the array, I'm going to move everything over 1. And this might take me a little bit to figure out exactly which direction things should go. But let's try this first, and then we'll test it. So I'm saying that I want everything from array I to get moved over 1 to I plus 1. Okay, and then at the end, I'm going to say array 0 equals what I'm inserting, which should be 230. And I happen to know that in Perl, I'm going to have to return this array. Depends on the language if you're going to have to return the array or not. Okay. So I'm trying to move everything over 1. I'm setting the first value of my array to be 230, the value I'm inserting. Now I need to actually call it. Okay. So I'm going to print inserting 230. And then I'm actually going to print my array. My printing is not in a function. So I'm going to create a print array function for myself, because now rather than copy and paste this, I am going to copy and paste this into a function. Sub print array. If you find you're going to have to use something twice, it's better to write a function for it than to copy and paste, because we want to be dry and efficient. Okay. Oops. All right. This isn't. There we go. Okay. Oh, and I just need to get my array. I'll just copy this line here. Oops. A couple things I want to move around. Initial array, print array, array, comment my function, print array. Awesome. Okay. And let me copy this down here. Okay. Let's see what happened. So I tried to insert 230 in the beginning. Oh, I forgot. I never called insert array because I expect to see a 230 here, and I do not. But I never said insert array. So I have to call it. Let's try that again. What did I do? 61. Oh, because I'm missing a parameter. I want to insert 230. Oh, but I have a problem at line 38. Well, that's happening 38. Use of uninitialized value I. So something was going on. Something didn't work the way I expected here. Uh-oh. So I can print the initial array, reading the middle element, searching for 10, and then, having a problem on line 38. I guess my array didn't work properly. Oh, did I not return from insert? No, I returned the wrong thing. Okay, Perl problems. There we go. Uh-oh. I inserted 230, but I zeroed out the rest of it. Okay, this must not be what I want. If I look at insert array, I'm going from 0 to size, and I'm moving everything over from left to right, left to right. Oh, if I move over from left to right starting at the beginning, then everything's going to be 0. What I actually want to have happen is I want to go in the reverse order. If I start at size and move everything over from the left to the right, then I should be moving things over before I do my insert. Let's try that again. Aha, okay, awesome, this works. So I see I still have 1 to 99, but now I actually have 230. I don't have 0 anymore, though. That's interesting. So I might have to fix, I'll have to fix that.